Good morning, friends from Skagway. We're right here next to the dock, but in Skagway last year they had a rock slide. You can kind of see the area right up here, and they're doing some construction. Because of that, we have to get on our tender boats to get to shore this morning. So we are up bright and early. It's about 5:45 in the morning. We are gonna go have breakfast so that we can get to shore, so that I can get on my first excursion of the day here in Skagway. Skagway, Alaska was originally inhabited by the Klondike people, and its name means place where the north wind blows. The city was founded in the 1890s as a gateway to the Yukon and Klondike gold fields. There was no gold in Skagway, but it was the starting point for many who had gold rush fever. Skagway was incorporated as a city in 1900, and it and its companion city of Dyea have a very interesting past, which we will share with you today as we explore Skagway. After a quick and delicious breakfast, we headed downstairs to get on the tender boat for a very short ride to the harbor. We chose to get on and sit up on top so that we could see the gorgeous view. It also gave us a very good view of the rock slide area that they are trying to avoid by taking the tender boats. By going very early in the morning, we did not have to wait in line for a tender boat, but we did hear that later in the day the line got quite long to get on these boats, so we were glad that we went early in the morning. We have about 12 hours here in Skagway today. It is about 6:45 in the morning right now. We just have to make sure we're back on the boat by 7:30 tonight. It is absolutely gorgeous here. Usually Southeast Alaska is very rainy. Somehow we picked the perfect week. It has been between 60 and 70 degrees this entire cruise. We keep pinching ourselves that we got such nice weather down here in Southeast. You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Second Avenue.
Okay, just follow the red dot.
A sign just said it's a 0.7 mile walk into town. There are buses and shuttles that you can take to get in there as well, but we're up for a little walk this morning. We got some time. Welcome to Skagway. Klondike Gold Rush National Historical Park. You might not realize it. This looks like a line. These are all men. Mark's going to share with you later some of the history of Skagway and the gold rush here in Alaska. It's pretty fascinating. It's around 7 o'clock in the morning, so nothing's really open yet, but there's crab legs and fresh Alaskan halibut right off the harbor here. Smokehouse, Good Eats and Brew, serving local craft beer and great food. We just met some people on our little tender boat that have cruised a ton. They said the Alaska one has the best scenery of any cruise they've been on, best wildlife, hands down, of all the cruises. So that's a good vote of confidence. We have absolutely loved this Alaska Princess cruise. It is our first cruise, so it's good to hear that people that have done other cruises also think it's great. The boys are getting ready for school, so they call us every morning when we're in port. We get to FaceTime with them and check in on them.
You could go check that out.
When we were planning for our cruise, I was only able to purchase one ticket online for the railroad, so we came early to see if they had any other tickets available for Mark. They did, thankfully, so we bought him a ticket with me on the 8 o'clock train, and then we were able to wander around town before our departure. Skagway is very different from the other two port towns that we've been to on this cruise because of its rich history, and that is what I think makes it so special and interesting to visit here. In 1896, George Carmack and two Indian companions, Skookum Jim and Dawson Charlie, discovered gold in the Klondike, about 600 miles away from Skagway, but it triggered the Klondike Gold Rush, and Skagway and its sister city Dyea were the gateway to get there. As the news spread to Seattle and beyond, tens of thousands of men and women took steamships up the Inside Passage to begin their trek to the Klondike. Once people arrived in what is now known as Alaska, there were two choices. From the city of Skagway, there was the White Pass Trail, and from Dyea, there was the Chilkoot Trail. The Chilkoot Trail was shorter but steeper, while the White Pass Trail was longer but less steep. Both of them were treacherous trails, but with gold rush fever, people set out to find their fortunes. Alaska is a wild wilderness, and it is hard to imagine the courage it took to make this arduous journey for gold. Skagway and Dyea became booming cities to help people gather supplies and start their journey to the Klondike Gold Rush.
So here you can see this picture of supplies of people carrying them up over the mountains. And the Canadian government, as it says right here, hoping to prevent famine, refused to let anyone into Canada without a year's worth supply of food. Over here they have a list of what it was. This is what they required them to have. So you can see 150 pounds of bacon, 400 pounds of flour, 125 pounds of beans, and on. Coffee, tea, sugar, all these things had to be carried up over the mountain on the Chilkoot Pass and then floated down the river.
Also included things like 3 heavy sets of underwear, trousers, 2 pairs of boots, 2 pairs of shoes, 4 blankets, towels, rope, all sorts of stuff. You know, that would get really heavy really fast.
Yeah.
Stampeders pause on the false summit of Chilkoot Pass. They just climbed the golden stairs but still aren't at the top. Man. So the Chilkoot Trail was 33 miles from the water up to Bennett Lake, and it says that many of these stampeders, is what they call them, right?
Yeah.
Walked 2,600 miles to get all their supplies up there. They would take 50 to 80 pounds at a time, and so they ended up doing 2,600 miles to get all their stuff up to Lake Bennett. That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
And then once they're there, they gotta start cutting down trees, making lumber, building a boat, and then and the journey wasn't even over then. The Yukon River was fraught. There was canyons and rapids, and hundreds of people died, lost everything. Just unbelievable what they sacrificed.
Gold fever. Because of the gold rush and how hard the journey was, it was quickly decided in 1898 that there needed to be some sort of transportation, and a railroad was what was needed. That led to the construction of the White Pass Railroad. This is the railroad that we're going to travel on today. As we made the several-hour journey up White Pass, we caught a glimpse of the harrowing journey it must have been for these gold miners to make, and we can't wait to share some of that history with you of how this railroad was created. Before we get to the history of this amazing railroad, I just want to add a quick note on how the train works as an excursion through the cruise ships. Since we bought our tickets straight from the railroad, we boarded at the train station. Those that buy their tickets through the cruise ships get picked up by the cruise docks and brought to the train station and are put in the cars in the front. We are somewhere in the middle because we are boarded at the train station. Now let's get back to the amazing history of this railroad. In 1898, it was decided that a railroad would be built up the White Pass. In an amazing feat of engineering and brutal hard work, the White Pass Railroad was completed in 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days by 35,000 workers. Since the route was so tight along the cliff edges, it called for a narrow gauge railroad with the rails 3 feet apart and a 10-foot wide roadbed. This also cut down on the construction costs of the railroad. Building the 110 miles of track was extremely difficult. As you will see, we are literally climbing up the side of a mountain. It also required tunnels, trestles, and numerous bridges. And much of it was done in the dead of winter in as cold as 60 below zero. It was miraculous that only 35 workers out of the 35,000 perished while constructing this railroad. Our train car for the day was part of the vintage fleet and was over 100 years old. It has been refurbished, but it was easy to be swept up in the stories of the past as we were traveling up the White Pass. The train had a tour guide that told us stories as we traveled and pointed out sites of interest. The valley was rugged and majestic, and we were all swept up in the beauty and history of it all. This train is a really fun way to see this and kind of be immersed in the history of this area. But there is a road across the valley here, so that is another way to experience this White Pass. there. The railroad was actually completed as the Klondike Gold Rush wound down, but it continued to be used for many years to come. During World War II, the railroad was used by the U.S. Army and also just as transportation and freight hauling for many years to come. In 1982, metal prices declined and the White Pass Railroad closed. In 1988, it was reopened as a tourist attraction and has now become a summer staple here in Skagway to transport people up White Pass as well as back into the history of this area. As you can see, as we went up the pass, we left summer behind and ended up in snowy winter. This steel bridge ahead was constructed in 1901 and was the tallest cantilever bridge in the world and was used until 1969. The train actually goes up into Canada and does a big loop to turn back around. There are excursions later in the summer that go even further into Canada, but this was our turnaround point. Reaching this point was perfect for getting the perspective of the Stampeders, finally making it to the summit of White Pass to be greeted by the Canadian Mounted Police to check their supplies before making the over 600-mile journey to the Klondike and hopefully to some gold. Let's take a few more minutes and appreciate these amazing views at the top of White Pass before we turn back around and head back into Alaska for the journey down the White Pass. So we've come to a slow roll because there's only a couple places on the railroad where they can pass, and we're gonna have a train pass us here on the left. This train car is being heated by a wood stove. They do have complimentary waters. And there is a small bathroom. This train car we're in is over 100 years old. They have these original brass luggage racks. So many fun details. We made our way down to Rocky Point and all of a sudden it's spring again and hot and all the leaves are out down here. We went through snow, we went through barely any leaves. Much further into spring down here. We're We're about to pass the Skagway Cemetery tucked back here in the woods.
What a fun trip. We just made it back to Skagway. Gonna be disembarking from the train. I'll follow you. Feels so warm and pleasant here.
That was really a fantastic trip. So that train ride took us about 3 hours. What time is it now?
11 o'clock.
It is now 11 o'clock. Taking the 8 a.m. train leaves us quite a bit of time to still do more things here in Skagway.
So there's a number of other excursions you can do here in Skagway. Skagway is very close to another town called Hamm. They're not connected by a road system. You actually have to take a little ferry. It takes about 20-25 minutes and runs every half hour or so. And over there they have the Chilkat River Eagle Preserve. And so Haines is famous for all of the eagles. And so they have rafting trips. You can go over there and raft for the day and look at eagles. They have bear viewing over there, as also the Chilkoot River with some fishing and canoeing and other things you can do there.
When we were walking around this morning, it was empty and it is now bustling with people here. I'm not sure how many cruise ships are in port now, but there's got to be quite a few. If you ever make your way into Skagway, we highly recommend going into the National Park Gold Rush Museum. The exhibits are free and make the story of the Stampede come to life. Downtown Skagway has such historic charm. It makes you feel like you've been transported to like a movie set. We were a bit hungry after our train ride, so we decided to stop in and get a Klondike Doughboy, which is an Alaskan fry bread. They fry it up and then cover it in cinnamon sugar, and it was a delicious treat. If you're new to our channel, we always like to check out grocery stores when we're in rural Alaska. Here we have the Alaska Commercial Company, or called the AC store, since 1867. Okay. $9.99 for a 12-pack of Cokes. $6.59 for a thing of salad dressing. Oh, produce section. $2.99 per orange. Per orange. Yep. $5.99 for a gallon of milk. $6.09 for a dozen eggs. $5.29 for a pound of butter. They do have a few Costco products in here. $17.39 for 6 rolls of paper towels. Cottonelle, 12 rolls, $26.99. They did have some Costco toilet paper, but I could not find a price anywhere. Cleaning supplies, a few little toys, pet food, a nice little market. Prices were definitely on the high end here. I'm not sure what other shopping options they have. Definitely no Costco. You can definitely tell that these buildings have been refurbished, but this building was the first YMCA in Alaska in 1898. It's crazy to imagine all the different changes that have occurred over the last 125 years. Our idea for the rest of the day is to rent bicycles. We got the Skagway Cycle Co. Bicycle rentals, tours, sales, and service. I have always wanted to try an e-bike because the boys are so fast on their bikes now. I'm not sure I'd be able to keep up with them on a long bike ride anymore. So I may be trying an e-bike today. I'm really excited. We headed into the Skagway Cycle Co. to see if they had any bikes available to rent. Once we knew we would be able to grab 2 bikes, we headed to grab a sandwich from the Glacial Coffee House before going out on our bike ride. We could have gone back to the ship for lunch, but with the mile walk and the tender boat situation, we decided a local lunch was a better idea. Once we had eaten and hydrated, it was time to pick up our bikes and head out on an adventure. Okay, I'm going to test out this Trek e-bike from Skagway Cycle Co. Has pedal assist so that I can keep up with Mark. We're planning to do about 20 miles if we make it, so we'll see how it goes. I'm just gonna have to play with it. Before our trip, I had researched the train ride here in Skagway, and Mark researched and came up with this bike ride for us. We are headed 11 miles to the next bay over to the historical village of Dyea. Remember when we were talking about the Klondike Gold Rush and the 2 different trails? Dyea was the head of the second trail called the Chilkoot Trail. Let's head over on the bikes and we will show you what that town looks like today. Okay, we're going uphill. I just passed Mark, which I've never done in my life biking, because he's so fast. My legs are burning at this point, but not to the point they would be nowhere near what they would be on a regular bike. This thing is amazing. It says I have a 21-mile range. What I'm going at, it'll probably go up as I lower. Anyways, so cool. Okay, here's our first viewpoint. You can pretty much see all of Skagway, all the way out to the 4 cruise ships that are in port. It's gorgeous.
I realize the runway is right here on the side of town.
Oh, it is. You're right.
Like a road. It just looks like a road on the side of town.
This is the airport runway. Do big planes come here?
What do you mean by big?
Like Alaska Airlines 747s?
No.
They just use smaller planes.
Yeah, this would be smaller planes.
Yeah. Okay.
What a beautiful day. Man, I am like totally struggling trying to keep up with Lauren. Coming up that hill, my heart rate was 131 beats per minute. And I don't know if she's even broken a sweat. It's all good though. Well, we're getting around the point from Skagway towards Dyea, and I can start seeing the water down there below us. Looks like they got a little bit of a road construction going on. We got to stop our bikes up here and see what's going on. We're making our way down the road and we can start seeing the water out here. You got houses up there. Wow. All right, let's keep going. Keep going, you don't have to
He told me to keep going. When Mark was a teenager, he came to Dyea with his mom and his sister to hike the Chilkoot Trail. This was really fun for him to come back and reminisce on all those great memories. Behind me, the same company that we rented these bikes from, will bring you up as far as we've ridden and then let you ride back on this like flat part, and then they'll pick you up part way back if you want to do this just at a little bit more of a mellow ride. And then across from us here, people are getting out with Skagway float tours. You can float down this river. It's just a gentle river, no white water and things like that, but another beautiful way to see this area back here. So many options, lots of fun ways to see these beautiful sights. This bridge marks the start of the Chilkoot Trail. Nowadays, people hike it for fun, but you must have a permit. And it's actually currently closed past mile 2 because of some intense flooding last season. Okay, we're headed to the Slide Cemetery, Dyea Historic Site, and Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park. All right, into the Tongass Forest here.
We're riding through this beautiful forest right now, but this entire forest has all grown up since the gold rush days. This whole area was clear cut by the miners.
We've made it 10 miles in. We are at Slide Cemetery here. Gold Rush Cemetery time, right?
Yep.
So many of the pioneers from Dyea are buried in this cemetery. They actually moved it from the old town because it was getting eroded away by the river. And so they moved it here. These go back to like 1898. Bert Meeker, 1898. Gus Taylor, 1898. So this is called Slide Cemetery because there was an avalanche April 3rd, 1898, and 70 people died, and they buried them here. It said negative publicity about the avalanche caused many to avoid the Chilkoot Trail. The town of Dyea never fully recovered.
What a peaceful place, though. You know, you had to be laid to rest somewhere. Really peaceful here.
From Minnesota, Idaho, New York. These were all gold rush people that had just fled their hometowns and come here. San Francisco, California. But this whole area is from the avalanche. Well, we made it to the end of our ride, 11 miles in. This is the tidal flats of Dyea. Very beautiful. We decided to ride just a little bit further out onto the flats so that we could say that we made it to the end of the road. It really was gorgeous. There were people camping out here. I can see why people would come here and spend time. Here's the panorama at the end of the road. Gorgeous 360 views.
These pilings out going into the water, those are pilings left over from old docks that they built during the Klondike days to try and land ships here. It's really hard to land these ships because it's really shallow, and so they had a lot of disasters because of that. Ended up abandoning the pier down here and using Skagway as the main port for this area.
Once we got here, we realized there really is not much left of Dyea. We may have missed the little historical town. We'll check on the way back. It had a sign, but then we didn't see anything, so we'll have to look on the way back. Otherwise, this is what's left. Okay, 2 o'clock. We're headed back to Skagway. I thankfully have not overused the motor on this e-bike. It's still saying 25 miles. It has a range of about 40 miles, I think, if you just use barely any of the boost, and then if you use like the turbo boost, it was telling me 21 miles from the beginning. I've kind of just held it somewhere in the middle and been able to ride really comfortably. I am starting to feel tired. It's not like, it doesn't do all the work for you, but sure makes it a lot easier. The city of Dyea has returned to nature. This is what it looked like in 1898. Well, this has truly turned back to wilderness. They have 2nd Avenue and Scow Street here. They're now walking paths. They have set up like the front of a building to kind of make you think like this used to be buildings going along here. Definitely back to nature. We were really glad that we found the actual historical city of Dyea. Even though there is really very little left here, it was so interesting to ride along what used to be these roads in a bustling town and see that it had disappeared back into nature. It was really fascinating. It says, not even a trace. There was an Olympic hotel right here. Largest and most complete hotel in Alaska, and there's nothing left. So it says the construction of the railroad, the poor harbor here, and then the gold rush going down, and then last of all that avalanche kind of finished off the city here. 115 furnished rooms, a bar and a dining room.
Holy cow.
2 years later, it closed.
115.
That's big.
Massive. Wow. People had high, it just shows like the crazy high hopes that people had for this. Like what a boom and a bust.
Well, I'm glad that we went back and checked out that Dyea, because once we understood the concept of like they were showing how it had gone back to nature, it was really powerful back there. I don't know, it was really cool. A lot of hopes and dreams that just couldn't be sustained because of the harsh environment here. Oh, we got a horse tour. Hello. With the assistance of this e-bike, I'm able to pass Mark on the uphills. But he sure smokes me on the downhills. I just don't like going as fast as he's willing to go. Okay, here goes Mark on the downhill. All right, pavement, real pavement. Woo! Welcome to Skagway, incorporated June 28, 1900. Garden City of Alaska. Oh, we made it back down into town. Now we just got to make it back to the bike shop. How many miles were we at?
22.7.
22.7 miles, and how long?
2 hours, 35 minutes.
All right, we're gonna make it in our 3 hours. Our wrists are really tired from, it was so bouncy for so long. All right, we can do it. This part's gonna seem easy. Okay, we made it back to the bicycle shop.
All right, with my helmet hair intact. It says 24.6 miles, 2 hours, 45 minutes.
Right. Well, my only complaint is that I wish I had spent more time looking for my riding shorts with the padded bum, because I didn't have any. And my bum is wishing that I had those, but otherwise, fantastic afternoon biking in Skagway. I'm sure this is not always the case, but the ice cream store has a line out the door on this hot day. Other days it's probably people waiting for hot chocolate. I also saw several outfitters today that do like gold panning experiences, which is kind of fun in a gold rush town. It feels like they really do have kind of an excursion for every level of adventure, or just walk around the town and it can be really fun. I think a little cat nap before dinner might be in order too. What time is it?
320.
320? Probably. This is such a beautiful view. Okay friends, our time here in Skagway is coming to an end. Thank you so much for spending the day with us. We hope you enjoyed this adventure. We sure enjoyed it. We'll see you again real soon for more of This Alaska Life. If you enjoyed spending the day with us in Skagway, make sure to check out our other cruising videos, including my packing suggestions and our day in Ketchikan and Juneau. They are all listed down below for you. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again real soon.